the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually created by him.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will.
It's because it's all made up anyway.
I'm going to close this campaign the way I started. We're done being on the menu, and we're done with the ruling class eating us alive. It's time we take our seats at the table and eat the damn rich! And eat the damn rich! And eat the damn rich!
They're not gangster or nothing, but they got Bear Mason. That's what we run around with. Bloomfield is all where all the African kids are. We're all like
African immigrant kids.
Yeah, this is the West End is our side. All those broken houses, abandoned houses.
When you say black people, you mean like Canadian born or immigrant?
Take a look over there, like those type of people. You know, those people are from Bahamas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they moved here and they get paid. They just get paid to live here. Our taxes will go to some people like over there too. Like they just made brand new houses for those little kids over there. Like a whole new park. You got to talk to a real immigrant about that.
We kept hearing that immigrants were getting money and free housing from the government. We wanted to know if that was true, so we set off for the immigrant neighborhood.
What country are you from?
I'm from Africa, Somalia.
Canada's broken because we're stupid.
Like, share, subscribe. I'd suggest watching one more video.
Mr. Speaker, we only need look at the rhetoric of the Liberals over the last decade. Here are 5 quotes. 1, the opposition party has no plan other than to let the planet burn. 2,
their only answer to climate change is to ignore it and to let the planet burn. This is immoral.
3,
some men just want to watch the world burn.
4,
to do, they're going to let the planet burn and they're going to force us to pay for it.
5,
enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn.
4 of those quotes are from the mouths of Liberal members in the last Parliament. 1 is from a Batman movie. It's not enough for them to say they disagree with our approach to lowering emissions globally by exporting more natural gas to replace coal. No, they have to point us as supervillains from a comic book bent on global destruction. Check the official record, and you can see they only started calling us evil, immoral supervillains once they brought a self-described proud socialist into their caucus.
Canada's broken because we're stupid. Who cares?
Like, share, subscribe. I'd suggest watching one more video.
That over 40% of Albertans think their province would be better off outside of Canada. What happened? Why has this movement gone from being seemingly a fringe movement, a small movement, to something that is arguably getting more and more mainstream every day?
Well, I've said it, previously, but I think from our perspective, what's gone on is that we think that Canada separated from Alberta. Like, we're not separating from Canada. Canada has already separated from Alberta. It started with, re-electing Justin Trudeau and leaving Justin Trudeau in power for 10 years. And then I think the straw that broke the camel's back was that when, notwithstanding the fact that, Alberta had been decimated by 10 years of Justin Trudeau, the destruction of our economy, the landlocking and the freezing of oil and gas development in Alberta, the destruction of the provincial economy, people in Ontario and Quebec were so stupid as to elect Mark Carney as the Prime Minister of Canada. I mean, a guy that literally thinks oil and gas, who's written in his book Values that oil and gas needs to stay in the ground, that has literally, pledged the destruction of the Western oil and gas economy. They elected him Prime Minister. And at that point, everybody in Alberta said, well, there's no hope. What are we going to do? I mean, it doesn't matter, what we do. The Pierre Poilievre can be ahead 10 or 15 points in the polls. All it takes is some liberal to say, Donald Trump is a bad man, right? And it triggers all of the Trump derangement syndrome in all of the people in Ontario and Quebec that were wearing 3 and 4 masks during COVID, right? And, who have this severe Trump derangement syndrome. and you get this goofy, elbows up campaign where Mark Carney, pays some little guy from the United States by the name of Mike Myers to come up. Mike Myers has 3 different passports, UK, Canada, the United States of America, a triple citizen, to come up and tell Canadians how to be patriotic. And the rest is history.
Basis. So today we're talking C9, like I said in the intro. Some call it the anti-hate bill. Some say it's the anti-religious freedom bill.
Yes.
What is C9 for those just tuning in and not up to speed?
Well, it was the government's attempt, after literally remaining on their hands and doing absolutely nothing since post-October 7, 2023. It was their attempt to start dealing with the rising levels of anti-Semitism in this country. And they claim they've been listening to religious leaders who wanted greater protections. Greater protections in terms of attending at their synagogues, attending at their mosques, attending at their temples. They wanted greater protection, more laws to provide policing with some clearer authority in which to ensure that they had the lawful way of getting from point A to point B, but not to be intimidated and harassed. So literally, we know this government, this liberal government, has done absolutely nothing. We've had a liberal government that has a divided caucus. On the one hand, we got those who support a free Israel, free to defend itself, and we've got part of that caucus who really is very supportive of Palestine and to some degree supportive of all the very dangerous and reckless demonstrations that have existed for the last 2 years and continue, almost 3 years, and continue on our streets. So again, the government claims we were listening, we were finally introducing legislation. They promised they would do that in the 25 election. Why it literally took them 6-7 months to introduce this piece of legislation is a mystery. But nevertheless, that's what it's designed at its core. We feel that this was an unnecessary piece of legislation because the problems were not because the police lacked the tools. The problem was a lack of will by the police officers to enforce the current laws that had been in the books for decades, dealing with the very same issues that a number of religious groups have been complaining about, and police not exercising their sworn duty to uphold the laws, not looking at the criminal code like I want to look at the criminal code as in the lens of black and white. They were looking at it through the lens of a gray mixture. And in some cases, and I'm not going to identify where I got this information from, but I traveled across this country, spoke to law enforcement, spoke to many religious groups, as did our colleague Andrew Lawton. And what we heard were, in many cases, police officers not exercising their sworn duty, but being more of peace officers as opposed to police officers, allowing criminality to literally occur right in front of them.
But that filtered down from the politicians to the...
Well, they were getting some direction from municipal leaders, of course, mayors and council, and obviously administration within the police service itself. So in our view, it was an unnecessary, redundant piece of legislation. If the police only enforced the laws, this country would be in a different place.
Now, unfortunately, the Liberals did some other things too.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. They took away some protections for religious leaders, and we're going to turn, as we queue up cut one, to a very astute individual to tell us what happened in that instance. Play cut one.
Thank you. This Liberal government made a political decision to support the Bloc Amendment to remove a 56-year-old religious defense in the criminal code. The removal of defenses in the criminal code is extremely rare. Instead of dividing Canadians, which this particular position does, we've heard from millions of Canadians, thousands of faith leaders, who are writing to their Liberal MPs, who are writing to the Prime Minister. They do not support the removal of this defense. It was done for political reasons. This government needs to prioritize issues that are facing Canadians on a daily basis. We've had 10 years of rising crime levels and very little substantive criminal law policies and laws to protect Canadians.
Can you smell what the Brock is cooking?
You know
right
what?
there.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
I know what a handsome guy there on that screen. He should be out and about more.
I think he should. I think he should travel this country.
You live in the States. Yeah, so? Do you remember Mr. Dressup, the children's show on CBC? What were the names of Mr. Dressup's two puppet?
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows. Friends. Casey and Finnegan, Bud the Spud, Howie, Meeker, Capital Saskatchewan, Regina, tragically, Pip. You're a defenseman, defending a 2-on-1. What do? Take away the pass, obviously. What are the 2 seasons in Toronto? Winter and construction. Wow, you really are Canadian. Yeah, but let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Sebastian, your thoughts on sort of like the trajectory of the negotiations with the United States? I mean, I'm still not that clear. Tonda McCharles said to the minister a few days ago, it's clear as mud where things are. But at the same time, obviously, there are a lot of people who believe holding those cards close to the chest is not a bad strategic move.
Listen, I won't repeat, I think, what Jamie said, that I repeat like a broken record every week here about the Carney government setting out its own deadlines, which they've failed to meet. But I think one thing I want to point to is Minister LeBlanc in that press conference said that Liberals were elected to do 2 things. One is to defend the Canadian worker, and 2 is to build projects in this country. And so I think instead of holding the Liberal government to kind of the measuring stick of these negotiations, which are often complex and not done necessarily on the timeline we want, I think we should hold them to what it is that they promised in the campaign. It's now, this time last year, we were in the middle of this election campaign where Prime Minister Carney, Minister LeBlanc, and every other Liberal in this country said that we would be building at unimaginable speeds, said that projects would be built in a way that we haven't ever seen before. And unfortunately for Canadians, we haven't seen any of that come to fruition. And I think that's kind of the bigger frustration that the Liberal government needs to worry, I think, than broken promises on deals with the United States necessarily, because those things are within their control. And Canadian workers are far worse off than they were a year ago. We've seen the unemployment numbers that have skyrocketed, and the Prime Minister's very weak response to that. So I think that's where I'd draw the focus there and say that they need to really roll up their sleeves and get building, because time's ticking and Canadians are suffering with every passing minute.
Mr. Carney, can you tell me the countries from which your company sources the polysilicon that goes into its solar panels?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't, but I can tell you that a number of the solar arrays, or the main components of solar arrays, and I would come from China, which is one of the largest producers. In fact, is the largest producer in the world of solar arrays.
Yes, that is true. In fact, half of the polysilicon, which is the main raw material used to make solar wafers, is produced in highly secretive coal-powered factories in the Xinjiang region, the same place the communist regime is carrying out a genocide against the Muslim minority. I'm going to quote Reuters here. Quote, some U.S. lawmakers have voiced growing concern that the industry is dependent upon products, specifically the raw material polysilicon, linked to work camps in China's Xinjiang region. The U.S. State Department has made a determination that Chinese officials are perpetrating genocide there, and imports of cotton and tomato products from the region were banned this year. Will you make the commitment on behalf of Brookfield that you will not source any materials from the Xinjiang region?
I'll make the commitment that we will not source materials that have the supply chain that you described, yes.
So does that mean you will not source any materials for your solar panels from the Xinjiang region?
Well, I think one has to look at, I don't have with me today the exact source, the exact companies and the specifics. So I'm not, if I may, I'm not going to take the reference from a media report and apply it as fact. But certainly ethical sourcing is important to us at Brookfield, yes.
Well, that's a nice talking point, but you would think you would know one way or the other whether your materials are, being that you are responsible for environment, social, and governance for this massive $500 billion enterprise, that you would know off the top of your head if the materials were coming from a place known for slavery, genocide, and coal-fired electricity.
What I'm saying, Mr. Poilievre, is I do not believe that that is the case.
But you haven't verified
and so you've asked me the question. Well, I have no reason to believe that it is the case. No.
Yeah. Okay. But you don't know. It just seems astonishing to me that someone who's responsible for environment, social, and governance would not want to guarantee that raw materials for your products are not coming from that kind of a region. And you've just said that the provenance is China. Well, the region in China where this material is produced is the Xinjiang region. So I'm just shocked that you haven't looked into this. It seems like you're concerned more with shareholder profits than you are with human rights and social justice. Your executive, I'm going to ask a question now. Your CEO says that a third of Brookfield's business will be in China within 25 years. China is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Why are you moving your resources and your capital to a country that has such intense emissions of greenhouse gases when that's the opposite of what you state is your purpose?
Well, to be clear on the specific, my role at Brookfield, which is to develop a strategy, which we are developing, which is to invest in companies, remove and eliminate greenhouse gases. So that's the impact, that's the transition approach. So what one does in that situation, if you may follow, is you go to where the emissions are and you convert dirty activities to green activities. And
I don't think that Mark Carney's dumb, but it pisses me off when somebody treats you like they think you're dumb. Like,
in fact, this is I believed when I accepted the invitation was the focus of this this committee is how we could do it for Canada. And so Brookfield is
so anyway
working. What I'm doing,
I don't think I'm getting an answer here.
If I may, you keep
have plenty of time, sir. May I please go on to my next question?
Well, actually, I wouldn't mind, rather than having your characterization of what I do, being allowed to give what I do, the facts of what I do and what my responsibilities are. And my responsibilities at Brookfield are developing a transition fund, which we think will be world leading, which is to help.
And I'm commenting on the impact that has on human rights around the world, sir. That's the point. And so I'll conclude
greenhouse gas emissions.
A final question, an ethical way. Thank you. Do you believe that the Chinese government is perpetrating a genocide on the Uyghur people? Put shareholder profits aside and just focus on humanity here for a moment.
I focus on humanity. I spend
so yes or no?
Time focused on humanity, which is dedicated to my.
Yes or no?
I'm deeply concerned by the situation with the.
Yes or no?
Thank you very much, Mr. Poilievre. Unfortunately,
shareholders first. Protecting the
year since Trump put tariffs on Canadian vehicles. And today, there's a potential sign of just how much the sector is changing. According to a report by Bloomberg, Stellantis is in talks to make Chinese electric vehicles at its idle plant in Brampton, Ontario, where thousands of workers have been laid off.
Now they're
joining me now. Lana Payne is the national president of Unifor. Welcome to the show. I know you've seen this Bloomberg report about Stellantis discussing making.
They're putting advertisements on CBC promoting China EVs. It's wild. They're pulling it off, though.
Chinese EVs in Brampton. What do you know about where Stellantis is at on this?
Well, we've had any number of discussions with the company, obviously, around their commitment to Brampton and to our members. We know that they are looking at any number of options here, and we have been reminding them that the option is the one that we negotiated in 2023. And that is to have and build a Jeep Compass in that facility, employing 3,000 workers on 3 shifts. The reality is, at this moment, obviously options are being looked at by the company. But what I would say is what we know of China and their record around the world, their track record around the world is, it's not that they invest in the supply chain. It's not that they invest in manufacturing. They have an overcapacity in their own country. Generally, what happens is the cars get built in China. They get taken apart into a couple of parts, and those parts get moved to facilities around the world, and then they get put together. It's called a knockdown kit, and it's not manufacturing. It's not anything like we've seen in this country, and the number of people that would be employed in such a scenario would be virtually hundreds versus thousands.
So even if it would put some of your workers back to work in Brampton, and I guess some people would see that as a positive, you're against this idea because of, your record of speaking against, Ottawa easing the tariffs on Chinese EVs because of the risk of China getting a foothold in Canada's market. So yes, this would maybe put workers back to work or some workers back to work, but it's not something that you see as a positive development.
The problem here is we have a commitment, and we expect the company to live up to that commitment. And that means to be building cars in Brampton. And that is the discussion that we need to be having. That's the discussion the government needs to be having with Stellantis. And that's the one that we're going to continue to have, because thousands of workers are depending on that plant in the plant, and thousands of workers in the supply chain who've been displaced as a result of the plant being idled this past year or so. So that's what we're going to keep fighting for, because that's what the workers deserve there.
One thing, so we've approved and accelerated some big LNG projects in Canada. More will come. The LNG projects that are moving forward are top quartile or top decile, and in some cases net zero LNG. When I say top quartile decile, I mean in terms of emissions. So they're amongst the lowest emission. We're looking to move towards low emission oil with Alberta through pathways and others. So we're embedding that element because it's the right thing to do, but it's also the long-term commercial thing to do, because the world wants low cost, low risk right now. Everyone's thinking about risk, low cost, low carbon energy sources, whether they're conventional or clean. So our strategy with Alberta has been to go right to the heart of the issue, which is the pipeline. But what else comes with the pipeline? Pathways, a carbon market that works.
There is no pipeline coming. Like, he is a dodge, divide, distract, con man. Oh, it's annoying. A memorandum of understanding to build a pipeline that's it. It's a distraction.
Alberta, because there's structural issues. Nuclear power, which they're also looking to build out. So having everything on the table, rolling up your sleeves, working on it, that's the way to address it. Showing that the Federation works. And it has the benefit of, it has a huge immediate payoff if we get it right. And we're making good progress with Alberta. There's more to be done, but we're making very good progress.
Prime Minister, my Atlantic Canadian caucus colleagues are sick of hearing me say this, but I would always say we can't afford ideology.
Just blow
out our way.
Like, goodness.
You deal with the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And on that note, I think it's fair to say, and speaking for a lot of people, I think in this crowd, you are definitely one of us, somebody of great ambition and pragmatism and practicality. It is a great honor to have you here in Halifax for as long as we have. Thank you, sir.
Earlier we met Russell Brand and he told us he's got an event this evening, which is a comedy show, and we're late. So you know what's going to happen here, don't you? We're walking in half hour late because I thought it was around the corner from where we were earlier. It was 40 minutes in a taxi. So we don't know where it is. We're going to go in and ask, but we're going to walk into a comedy show and the first thing that probably is going to happen. There, no?
In them scans when you're a few kids in, when you've had a lot of...
Now the Lord, he showed me a lot of things simultaneously. Oh, you worship at the false altar. Then you're offered late-term abortion.
It was good. It was good. He went through a lot of what he went through today with us, but then talked about how Jesus and his belief system now has pulled him through it. So it was interesting, man. And the difference here, say like I'm here in the venue, if I was in a venue in the UK, they'd be so worried. The owner comes over there, says, I've been watching everything you're doing, but absolute pleasure to have you here. In England, owners of venues will think that, but too scared to say it. They'd actually say, can you please not show that you were here and there? That's what's happening in the UK. So, yeah. We'll go and catch up with Russell. Well, I want to ask him a few questions. I'll let him answer. I was going to say a few more things, but I'll let him answer. How did it go, Russell?
Should we sit here?
Yeah,
comfortable to sit down.
How did it go?
It was good, actually.
Here we go. Like Russell Brand and one of our favorites.
I've done a couple of these here, and it's a really, it's a lovely environment.
I didn't know you mix it with the Bible.
That's all I do now.
What's the name of this?
This show was called "A Funny Thing Happened to Me on the Way to Church," but I'm working out, as all of us must, who follow him, how it's appropriate to share our testimony. This show is called "A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Church," and it's just about, really, it's my testimony and some of the things that have happened that have led me to come to Jesus.
Tell me, what's changed if someone was charged, if 5 years ago, if someone was charged with multiple counts of rape, I don't think anyone would be sitting in an audience listening to them.
Weird, isn't
What's
it?
changed?
I think people don't trust the media anymore. I think people don't trust the government anymore. I think people suspect the motivations of people in positions of authority, whether that's media institutions, government institutions.
Do you think, like, who do you trust? Like, it's tough.
I think during COVID, a lot of people woke up to the fact that they can't trust people in authority. And I think people have started to recognise patterns where people that are influential experience a lot of smearing and attacks. That's what I think.
Similar to the attacks Donald Trump faced. So many of these people, I'm guessing, are MAGA voters, do you think, in this area. It's a very strong...
Yeah, very much. Very
so
Republican.
They watched as their own president was falsely accused through Russia, allegations of women, of prostitutes, of all these things, of rapes, of all these different accusations against the man that they trusted.
That's right. I suppose you're right.
Yeah, that's why, because I'm watching it thinking something's definitely changed in the public mindset, which I'd say is trust. They don't trust. They've seen too many.
It's not a coincidence, right? That's the actual problem. The problem is they are no longer in total control of information. They used to. All they had to do once was have a meeting with Conrad Black, Lord Rothermere, like the heads of the big newspapers in the UK, have a chat with the BBC, and they could tell them, this is what you say about vaccines, don't put anything else on. Like, who's going to trust the BBC after everyone knows that they edit their material? Who's going to trust Channel 4 when everyone knows which side their bread's buttered? Who's going to trust the British media when we know now for a fact that the Trusted News Initiative is an organisation of media partners that recognise that their real enemy is independent media. Their enemy, they're not competing with one another anymore. They're competing against independent media. It became very clear in COVID, but COVID weren't a revolutionary moment, it was a revelationary moment where a lot of people saw for the first time, you can't trust your government, you can't trust your media, you can't trust corporations, they're there to control you. They require that you are ignorant and docile in order that they can control you. A lot of people woke up. Say someone like you, mate, you've obviously been on your own path for a long while. You're not an easy person to repress and put down. And what they're all about is ensuring that, in particular, the community that you represent, working class people in Britain, don't get their spirit back. Don't get their spirit back.
And to do that, they like to set, well, it seems they like to set an example of people as well.
This must resound to some people, like, not just me.
If you speak up, they have to crush you in the sense that to send a message to everyone else.
That's right, mate.
Can I ask you, you're now in America,
Yeah.
How long you been living here?
A year.
Oh, it's only a year.
Yeah, I came over for a couple of things. Like I got invited over to participate in a few things around the election, like a sort of campaigning and stuff.
Okay.
And I participated in them, and then I've like just stayed.
Where did you live in the UK?
I live round. I live round. Well, I don't know the same exact address or whatever.
Okay,
but
no.
sort of like in the south, not far from like Oxford and that.
How different do you feel? How different do you feel when you're in America to how you feel in Britain?
Like, I feel it's a bit easier here, to be honest, because the fact is this country isn't controlled in the same way as ours. There are problems in America, of course there are problems everywhere.
It's so out of control here in Canada. Like, if anybody's watching from another country, like, smash the like, just because, like, we've got to correspond somehow.
Everywhere. But what's going on in our country now is somewhat unique. Our country hasn't had a populist moment other than Brexit, I suppose. Brexit was a moment where people recognised that the population are not in tune with what they're not singing the tune the government are playing. So it's different here. It's different. But I love our country, mate, and I think all of us know that our destinies are somehow entwined with the land that we're from. Like you're going to have to stay in England one way or another, I think. But it's nice to get out here and just to feel the boot come off your chest for a minute and not feel like you've got to look over your shoulder. Because the fact is like all of these institutions of our country are, many of them I think are involved in, well, I don't trust them no more, is how I'd say it succinctly.
Have you had firearm training out here?
Yeah.
Oh, you got involved in the culture?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went and shot guns yesterday for the first time.
Where'd you go?
We went in Florida, Fort Lauderdale. Spencer was the best.
Well done, mate. Well done. You got a good eye, have you? You good shot?
It was good. I shot an AK-47.
Nice. I mean, it's all right, isn't it?
No, it was good.
The thing is, I had a go on them. When I was still on what you might call the other side of the liberal aisle, I went to a prison in it's called Angola, but I think it's Louisiana State Jail. Most of the people there do an average sentence of 50 years. 98% of them die in there, mate. Like while I was in there, like the governor let me like use loads of it. I used like an antique like machine gun, like with a belt going through it, like one of them like the fires. And like what I thought was like, oh my god, guns are amazing. Because I was coached to believe that all these American men of the South, they're racist, they're all MAGA. What it is you can't mug them off. You can't control them. See, in our country, if someone's like hunting and all that, like that's a person that's probably got land, probably from a particular background. All the people around here that have got guns, fishing and hunting, that's their working class. Like the rednecks, the hillbillies, all this lot, they're all tooled up. You can't like roll them over in the same way that you can in the UK. It's a different kind of country. And indeed, I've often thought that the farmers and football culture are the two areas where you could mobilise, where you could get people together. Farmers, because of the food, and because them lot, they won't have it. Do you remember them countryside marches when they were like, well, you were younger than me.
What, fox hunting?
All that.
I remember, yeah.
And even though like then I was like vegetarian, I'm like, I like foxes, but like the country, they don't want to be pushed around, them farmers. They don't push around.
They managed to push them around.
Well, I think that's going to be an interesting area, Tommy. I think it's going to be an interesting area because all them like, the diesel stuff and the fertiliser stuff, I'm like where I'm like live now in the UK when I'm there, it's like there's a lot of farmers and they're pissed off. And anything where it's like the farmers in the UK, Sri Lanka, India, Holland, Germany are all pissed off. What's going on? That's globalism. Something's going on.
Get to target. Yeah. Russell, Keir Starmer is a...
Well, many people...
Come on, finish it.
I mean, it's difficult not to lean into the C word, but this is a Christian a Christian area. So, I mean, mate, I'll tell you what, something's going on with them Ukrainian lads. Keir, pay them their money, is what I would say. Then they won't firebomb your vehicle.
Russell, thanks for your time, man.
Nice one, mate.
Thanks.
God bless you. Thanks for coming out.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
We're not doing a walking interview, but
come on, we've done this before. You never sit down with me. So just answer.
I'm looking in my inbox for the request that you sent in for the interview. What happened? But I'll tell you what. If I come to Australia, we'll do a sit-down interview, but it'll be like 5-10 minutes, if that's okay.
I'll hold you to it. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to see you. He's a very nice guy. He lies with a smile.
I'll tell you the truth. My daughter is now saying, damn him, damn Trump, and smashing her hand on the table. And I said, wow, honey, what are you thinking? And she said, he made us move in order for our own safety. And it's now he's destroying the country. You know, listen,
wow.
She lives here. She hears what I'm saying to you. Not that I go around speaking like this every day if it's not an interview, but I think to myself, you don't want to give this to her. You know, whatever this thing is of me thinking that I have to somehow stand in defiance of him. No, I don't. Somebody can tap me out, you know.
Yeah.
I did 22 years. I don't really need to do anymore. And I don't want my kid to be so affected by it. And, you know, she has autism.
But she recognizes what's going on.
Yes.
And by the way, do we really have to treat people like that? You know, the meme that he had where he was flying with the crown and the, you know, spewing excrement all over the people down below.
The country, America.
Yeah, he tried it. Would Lincoln have done that?
I don't think Nixon would have done that.
Nixon wouldn't have done it. You know, Reagan wouldn't have done it. Bush wouldn't have done it. Either Bush. You know, it just, you know, I think people in the Midwest where I am still have this, we value our decency and our civility and you know, we don't get taken with whatever goes on the coast. You know, we got a chip on our shoulder about that. And I think it matters. It may not matter right away when you're voting, but down the road, if he doesn't deliver on the economy like he promised he would, then that stuff will start to add up and they'll get tired of it and they'll vote for change, which is what they always do. You know, change is always, we're always changing. I was thinking about, you know, when I was growing up and I started listening to Led Zeppelin and my dad was going, what the hell is that? You know, I mean, it changes, every generation changes things. And we're in a place now where they want to change it back to whatever that was. And I don't think people are as afraid of change. And we'll find out at midterms, but I don't think they're afraid of change. I think they wanted things to get solved, you know, economically, but I think when it comes to decency and civility and respect for the rule of law, which governs all of us, whether we're left or right, will matter again.
But when it comes also to the fact that the president of Air Canada didn't speak French at the time where we know that a lot of the victims and their families are Francophone, knowing also that Air Canada has duties, obligations under the Official Languages Act, I just thought it showed a lack of empathy and a lack of sensitivity. And in that sense, I think it's a question of moral leadership. And I think that in those circumstances, the president of Air Canada needs to show that he understood the message and that he needs to make sure that himself and also the entire company abides by its obligation under the Act.
In Canadian federal politics, the Canucks are represented by two separate yet unequal groups, the globalists who sold out and the opposition trying to salvage a country. These are their stories.
Today, really do appreciate it. I'm just wondering if you can tell us.
We'll come back to that. What we're going to do is drop over to here to X and see what kind of foolishness is on the go over there today, because there is a lot of foolishness.
There's a point of privilege on microphone 1, then we'll go to microphone 3. Go ahead, delegate.
Yes, hello. I was standing here with my gender equity card before you called on the previous speaker. That's my point of privilege that I would like to raise.
I will explain the speaking order, which is fixed.
I can see it 100 times. It's still like absurd to me to watch. Like
that I cannot amend, which is the pro-con rotation. You can move yourself up a line that you're standing in.
I am pro, and I was.
We went.
You went pro, con.
We went pro-con, pro, and my plan was to go con. The speaker at Con Mic 3 also has a speaking card.
Yesterday, this card was used in an inappropriate manner. And while I understand in Ontario we note this as equity, even if that, this was also used inappropriately in terms of gender. I want everyone to be mindful that these cards for individuals like myself who identify as a Black woman have no value.
Like me too. They have no value to me as well. None. None.
Do we...
Your thoughts on...
We're going backwards in order. Here, this is a good one.
Era divisive policies, why Mark Carney hasn't scrapped this thing entirely.
What?
Doing and waiting for the eventual decision out of the Supreme Court. Canada's highest court has agreed to hear our case, and that's something because they only hear between 6 and 10% of cases before them. So they've agreed to hear our case, and you never know. If we win this, then everything goes back to normal the way it was before, and all of us who held out and held the line will get to take our firearms back out.
Explain to us the basis of the challenge. What was the legal reasoning, and how did you do at the lower courts?
So we've been through both the federal court and the federal court of appeals, and we did lose at both of those, which is bad, right? I mean, we're in this to win it. But the basis of our arguments, there were 7 different parts to our challenge. But the most important parts are, number 1, can the government use an OIC, an order in council, which is like an executive, summary in the States.
It is an executive order. That is exactly what it is.
Exactly. Can they do something? Can they use it for something as big as a sweeping gun ban like this, stepping into the lives of millions of Canadians who've done nothing to deserve it and confiscate our property? And I think all Canadians would like to know the answer to that question. There's a piece in the law that states that the governor and council cannot ban firearms that are deemed appropriate for civilian sporting and hunting use. And of course, that's exactly what these firearms are. We've used them safely and without issue for decades, if not generations. The government's argument to that is, well, we are the governor and council, and we've changed our mind.
The federal government is going to be able to pull that off. What is that?
One vote for many.
It's not hundreds of thousands, it's millions.
It's why Zheng Gangcheng made several trips from Dallas to oppose bills he believes are harmful to Asians in Texas.
It's damaging and dangerous.
He testified against 5 bills. All of them, he says, are racist.
In this way, HB 17 is racist in nature, I think. Thus, each and everyone supporting this bill, to me, is racist in heart and mind. The regulation in China is different because in China, even me, I own green card. I'm a Chinese citizen. Even I cannot buy land.
This is pretty rich, right? Like,
all the time that the witnesses are saying it, I don't know, they seems to be targeting China or, accusing CCP or China doing things. I think it's irrelevant.
Who? The Communist Party of China? Really? They would never.
They spend so much money coming to the U.S.
Well, okay, but let me go one step farther. So we were there and we could have this hearing and we criticized the Chinese government. Are we going to be allowed to?
I think that I'm not sure, but on the website, there are so many things. Like people are protesting or against. There are so many things that the Chinese government has so many things to do. They don't care unless you try to destabilize the government or cause social unrest. When you visit, you are welcomed, especially from the United States, and you don't need to get a visa.
Well, I think that the government of the United States thinks differently. That's why they have designated China as a foreign adversary. And so that is why.
I don't have a whole lot to say about that, but
sovereignty, he's here to dissolve it.
Very
This is not an elected leader with a mandate from the people. This is a banker groomed by global institutions, positioned at the helm of the most powerful central banks in the West, and now parachuted into Canada's top office.
She's talking about Carney, like, let her rip.
In the middle of an engineered crisis. Carney was governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 crash. Then he was handed the top job at the Bank of England, becoming the first non-Brit to hold that position in over 3 centuries. That wasn't a promotion. That was placement, a signal to the global financial elite that Carney wasn't just one of them. He was ready for the next phase of the process.
I'm not going to lie. That kind of sounds like AI. I know this lady. She doesn't sound like that when she speaks.
Project.
Interesting.
And that project is global governance, technocratic control, a world where countries exist in name, but real decisions are made by unelected bureaucrats, asset managers, and central banks. Carney has never hidden his loyalties. He's a key figure within the World Economic Forum, a trusted architect of Klaus Schwab's Great Reset.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. Like, anyways, so we're going to space again. That's exciting.
9 hours of rest before I need to get up and start getting ready to head to the launch pad. But Canada, I am thinking of you, and I am hoping that all of you see your greatness reflected in this journey around the moon. I'm just so proud of all of you.
Go get him, kiddo. Look at this. This is ironic, or not ironic, but the way it would go with a liberal plan. $30 million on those turbines and not one spinning. What are you going to do?
Was about just religion in general. There does seem to feel like a bit of backlash for religion. And that's why we did answer the questions about this isn't a Christian religion issue. This is an issue that covers all religions. So, and it really is about free speech. So if you don't practice any religion, do you value free speech?
Well, the biggest part is that they removed something. So when people go to look at the bill, they're like, oh, it looks fine. It's like, but that's because they removed something. And that something was a protection for good faith discussions between, pastors, priests, anybody, even a parent. If you're going to have a good faith discussion, it needs to be protected because government doesn't know how to interpret scriptures and holy texts. That's not their job.
No, it does not. Check this out. Sorry to drop German, but there's good subtitles here. Let's flip these up.
Ich ja
Oh, come on.
Wenn es danach geht, was die AfD möchte, auch nicht erwünscht bin. Ich habe 2017 einen Wahlkampf gemacht. Dort bin ich oft gar nicht zu Wort mehr gekommen, weil ganz wenige von der AfD einfach alles niedergebrüllt haben. Und ich würde mir wünschen, dass Menschen mit Migrationshintergrund, die vielleicht jetzt solche Gedanken haben oder mit Migrationsgeschichte, sagen wir mal lieber, dass sie doch auch so viel Bindung an Deutschland haben.
God, there's so much we could discuss here because somebody pointed out to me a term I hadn't heard since I was in political science 101 back in university days was anarcho-tyranny.
Anarcho-tyranny, yeah,
and
it's a terrific.
That's what we're living under.
Yes,
a government that terrorizes its political opponents, but yet gives a slap on the wrist to real criminals. And that's
right. So
what we are.
It's a terrific term. Let's just have a look at the term. Anarcho-tyranny. What does it mean? It's a term from political science, right?
Yeah.
Anarcho-tyranny. What's the anarchy part? The anarchy part is a complete disregard for serious violent crime, for political corruption, for foreign interference. These things are met with shrugs or with denials. Like, we don't care about that. And that is going on in this country. Violent criminals get bail. Political corruption is ignored. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to do anything. Powers that be are safe. That's the anarchy part. The tyranny part. Severe, determined enforcement of small rules against law-abiding people.
Yeah.
Lots of those during COVID. But in other words, you will do what we tell you to do, or we will watch you, we will track you, we will cite you, we will prosecute you, we will punish you. You will obey. That's the tyranny part. And you put the two things together, you get a dysfunctional country, a dysfunctional kind of government where serious things are ignored and small little things are emphatically enforced.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
God, there's so much.
Oh, look at that.
Liberals banned all uses of strychnine, which is the most effective and reliable tool that prairie farmers have to use to control destructive gopher infestations. This anti-science decision ignores decades of safe, tightly controlled use through municipalities. Saskatchewan, for example, even has a strict stewardship program for strychnine put in place in 2011 with inspections, audits, and integrated pest management strategies to ensure responsible use. No such oversight exists for the riskier alternatives the Liberals now force on farmers. And you know what? It also ignores research that proves strychnine has limited environmental impact when used as directed, and it totally ignores the economic disaster that now threatens farmers and families all across the prairies. Richardson ground squirrels, look, I'll admit, they're pretty cute, but you know what? They destroy cereal, oilseed, forage, and pasture crops like those you've seen behind me. In some areas, they chew through fiber optic cables and puncture gas and water lines, which creates safety hazards and drives up repair costs. In Alberta alone, farmers face more than $800 million in annual risk to hay and native pasture grazing land. In Saskatchewan, farmers face about $9 million in yearly losses from gopher damage. One farmer south of Lakeland, Humphrey Bannock, he's already lost $20,000 and nearly 20 acres of crops to gophers this year. Now look, this isn't just a rural problem. The truth is, it's a national food security crisis. Without immediate, evidence-based federal action, Canada risks widespread crop failures by 2026 next year and severe disruption to the food supply chain here in Canada.
So that's not great news.
The gun buyback program. We will stand with legal gun owners every single day.
Rhetoric does not lawfully protect a single Ontario firearms owner. To the Premier, why is this government leaving Ontarians exposed to a patchwork of enforcement instead of delivering real province-wide protection like Premier Smith and Moe?
Let's find out.
Question, I recognize the member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Yesterday was the deadline for Canadian gun owners to declare their prohibited firearms to qualify for compensation under the federal buyback program. Concerns over property rights, the effectiveness of the policy, logistical hurdles, and the potential criminalization of previously law-abiding owners is creating a great deal of anxiety here in Ontario. Last month, the Premier praised a homeowner who used a firearm to defend himself against an intruder. I agreed with the Premier's sentiments, and we agree that the buyback targets legal gun owners and hunters rather than criminals. But there has been no official statement from this government, so I would say this.
No surprise there, Doug Ford stinks.
Affordability, because news events do intervene, and that is the interviews that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles gave to Vanity Fair, in which she's quoted as referring to you as, excuse me, and again, not my words, sir, but a conspiracy theorist of a decade, and described your transformation from someone who once opposed President Trump to now his vice president as an act of political expediency. And I'd like to give you the chance to respond to that, sir.
Well, first of all, if Susie, I'll trust what you said. I haven't looked at the article. I of course have heard about it, but conspiracy theorist. Sometimes I am a conspiracy theorist, but I only believe in the conspiracy theories that are true.
Are you going to pro-government when you get a majority? Mark Carney, are you going to pro-government when you get a majority of government? I'm asking a question. So when are you going to pro-government? When you get a majority? You know you want to do that because you want to control all of us. But you're going to go to prison for what you did. Trust me. Carney, are you going to pro-government when you get a majority? Mark Carney.
Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne is meeting with business leaders and government officials in Beijing. China is Canada's second largest trading partner, and Champagne is there to drum up more investment from sources beyond the U.S. Lisa Xing reports from China's capital.
Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne doing the work of diplomacy here in Beijing. Traveling with him is Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem. Here at the Canadian Embassy, they're meeting with the heads of Canadian financial institutions, essentially to strategize about how exactly to secure more Chinese investment in Canada, considering back in January when Prime Minister Mark Carney came to visit with his counterpart, Chinese President Xi Jinping. He had announced a goal of increasing Canadian exports to China by 50% by 2030. Here's what Champagne said about that today.
We think that our financial institutions, our insurance company, which are already present on the Chinese market, can help to further the objective that
Bought and sold. Check this out. Watch this.
January 13th at around 11 in the morning, I was escorted out of my middle school art student teaching placement. I have a script that I'm going to be reading from because I want to be very careful with my words. On Tuesday, January 13th at around 11 in the morning, I was escorted out of my middle school art student teaching placement. I was informed that the district received several complaints from concerned parents about the video I posted the day before. In the video, I spoke about turning down a sponsorship from Wayfair as they sell beds to, quote, a government contractor furnishing a federal detention center.
Why would that happen to this person?
For migrants near the U.S.-Mexico border, end quote. In this video, I said, fuck ICE. And at the end of the video, I put up my middle finger while saying that I believe that ICE agents should...
So she's rancid.
I could certainly have chosen my words better and avoided using vulgar language and gestures, but my stance remains firm. I stand on the side of humanity and will not endorse any institution who supports ICE. I have chosen to keep the video visible on my page. My values and actions are always rooted in a deep love for humanity, including love for my own community members as a first-generation child of French and Peruvian immigrants. Members of my community are actively being killed and kidnapped en masse by ICE, a rogue paramilitary force that answers to the child rapist and 34-time felon who is currently president of the United States. I stand by my message, even if my choice of verbiage could have been more tactful. For full transparency, I've posted the email I sent to the district yesterday following my termination.
The Riddler is missing his glasses. Come on. What is this? Oh, sure. What else we got? Oh, we're back over here, guys.
People at their work when it comes to the objections that they raise at committee. It's clear that the Conservatives and some stakeholders fairly across Canada raised concerns about the proposed removal of the existing good faith religious defence. We responded to those concerns. I met personally with faith leaders from different communities of interest and heard from many different folks across the country, and we felt that the concerns that they had were accommodated by the amendment that we put forward.
Is that true?
No. No, I don't. Is that true? No, it's not.
Rebel News, we saw recently, just last week, that
I'm a huge fan of Rebel News. If you guys are on any interface, check out Rebel News and subscribe to their channel. They're awesome.
The Liberal-packed Senate passed Bill C-15 that made sweeping changes to the Expropriation Act, allowing their high-speed rail mega project to go through and take properties just like the one that we're standing on here today. How do you plan to fight this rigged racket in addition to calling for the cancellation of Alto altogether, but to reform back checks and balances in place so that people's private property cannot be seized under what many are calling this liberal land grab?
That's a good way of putting it. It is a liberal land grab. Your private property is not safe under this liberal government. We have seen that with the decision by the Liberal government to refuse to defend private property rights in the Cowichan lawsuit in the West. The Liberal government made a decision to withdraw the argument of private property rights from that lawsuit, and as a result, we saw a ruling that now potentially jeopardizes the private property of tens of thousands of British Columbians and maybe worse. We now see Mark Carney and the Liberals threatening to confiscate the private property of thousands of families along the corridor of this $90 billion Alto monstrosity. Your property is not safe under this Liberal government. Conservatives will reinstate your right to have your property. We will stop the confiscations. Property rights are human rights.
All right. Sounds good. Like, I cheer for Pierre.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. Tamara Ugolini from Rebel News.
Activist Isabel Brown had a message for her fellow Gen Z women.
If you're not encouraging your children to grow up and have the courage to get married and have kids, more kids than they can afford before they think they're ready, it is high time to start.
They used to come after women of color and accuse women of color of doing this very thing.
It wraps a woman's worth up in her ovaries in a way that for too long has happened. The whole women's movement was not about bucking the trend of staying at home.
Nah, that's enough of that. I'm not much for that trend. Check this out. Watch this. This is a 5-minute commercial that the CBC just put on, like, the news, but it's a commercial for Chinese AVs. CBC Watcher, if you're ever on X, check that person's channel out. It's
Shanghai service station. The
Here's
attendants are robots. English teacher Tony Tsao doesn't plug in his EV to charge its battery. A robot trades his empty battery for a full one in the time it takes to grab a coffee.
Almost like 3 minutes. Because you can see that on the screen, right? It shows the process of the battery swap like process. I think it's getting shorter and shorter.
With Chinese EV maker NIO, you own the car but rent the battery.
It's better.
Thank you, Chatty Neil. I just noticed that's a huge gift. Thank you so much. We'll get back to the video, but thank you again. Very much appreciated. Wow.
Than charging my battery because it saves more time for me.
Not only is China dominating the global market for electric vehicles, it's developed an entire ecosystem of battery swapping and charging stations to support them.
China's strengths in electric vehicle sector are undeniable. And in order for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from innovative partners.
After Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to China, Canada opened the door just a bit to Chinese EVs by allowing 49,000 to be sold into Canada's domestic market. It's part of a bigger play allowing Canadian agricultural products to regain access to China. That's not a lot of cars, but the implications of giving Chinese companies such as Geely, BYD, Xiaomi, and Chery a Canadian footprint.
Go again. March 31st is the Trans Day of Visibility. And certainly over the last few years, we've been talking a lot about trans people. But here's the thing. Trans people are not political tools. They're not political pawns. They're real people. Yet you have them in almost every political broadcast you have when it comes to the UCP protecting children. But they're facing increasing amounts of online...
I'll tell you, just by looking, I don't want that guy anywheres near me. Like, that's a creep.
Hate, real world hate, discriminatory laws, and their own UCP government. Now wait a minute. I had to pull over to answer this. Alberta families know that protecting their children is the most important job they have. Under the UCP government led by Premier Danielle Smith, bold steps have been taken to put parents first, safeguarding young Albertans' futures and create a safer, more transparent environment for every child.
Please explain.
First, protecting children's long-term health and future choices. The UCP introduced laws to restrict irreversible medical interventions for minors struggling with gender dysphoria. Puberty blockers are now off-limits for those under 16, and gender transition surgeries are prohibited under 18.
Seems reasonable.
Exactly! These measures ensure kids have time to grow, mature, and make informed decisions as adults, preserving their
Straight now. Okay, but let's tell me how the connection between aliens and the Nazis took place. When did all this start?
Let me begin.
When did it all start? Like, let's figure it out. Alex Jones, who I do like, but here he's gonna kind of make a jackass of himself, I think.
because this is really, I'm telling you, Joe, this is a real deal.
I believe you.
This is, you ask, who are they? It's people who are psychically, genetically available to interface in this incredibly diverse universe with all these dimensions above and below and all around us with consciousnesses. And the truth is, no energy is ever destroyed. It all continues on. The truth is, our bodies, this is a fact, are a communal hive organism of all of our ancestors and all of their race memories, but not in just some.
Why does it not sound crazy anymore when you hear that? You're like, oh, that possibly could be how it is. Because that is what we're developing. Like, it's
compressed epigenetic system. It's beyond that. It's an electrochemical antenna, they've proven this, that connects to higher and lower dimensions. So our bodysuit, because our predecessors wouldn't put us in a position without giving us a bodysuit that is them. Our families are loving us. They're holding us. They're wrapped all around us. Their strength, their will, their bad, their good, their sins, the good things they did, the battles they won, the battles they lost, the woman they loved, the man they loved. It's all in us, all these people. It's why we're able to look into so many things.
It's something to think about. Lord, I kind of want to
have so many different experiences. And so all the shaman, all the ancient religions, everybody says there are the good ones and there are the bad ones, and people are interfacing. So you say, where does it begin? From the Tibetans to the Mesoamericans to the Egyptians to the Druids to every ancient society describes the same thing. There are bad things that look like elves that have horns when they show you who they really are, and there are good things, but they don't contact you unless you contact them, and then they're almost not even concerned with what you're doing. I never bought into this, looked into it. But then I began to think about, what did I hear when I was a kid? What did I see? What was coming out in government documents? What was being admitted? When I read all these books about World War II and the Nazis and Hitler obsessed with the Dalai Lama and the Tibetans and what they were able to do without drugs to interface with this, and all the rituals they would do and how they would believe that beyond the ether, like at Skull and Bones, it's a German death cult, they do rituals and take drugs to talk to the goddesses. Well, they're just appearing as, sexy, beautiful women. It's whatever you want as these spirit guides, because lower entities will come in and violate your free will. God and his angels, which are below him, will not get involved in your everyday life. They will not manipulate your free will unless you ask them in. But then the devil masquerades as an angel of light. So we're on this planet, the third dimension, which is a launch pad to all the other dimensions below and above. The third dimension, all the mathematics shows, is the primal sea of where all this happens. And the Earth's like an egg.
Like, are you guys following this? Because it's a lot. Like, he's an intense guy. Sometimes he talks foolishness, but a lot of the time he's pretty sharp. And he's talking this way. Sounds like he's whacked.
And we've got all this potentiality, and God will send out a transmission for a larger plan, but evil.
But I like him. Like, I'm not dismissing any of this.
Evil is willing to come in, and what does it say? Demoralize, get rid of children, don't have kids. Humans are bad. We'll be better once you're all gone. And
it's no different than what Mark Carney is saying. Like, it's the same.
And it's because it's their operational mission for whatever reason that we'll understand later what's going on. So the Nazis, if you get into deep literature, they believed they were basically seancing and being possessed by entities that, it was before the Nazis. For whatever reason, it was the Germans that this happened to, and the Swiss. Like, they didn't discover LSD in the 30s. These people were running the psychology departments. They were interfacing with the occult. They were involved in all this crazy stuff, and it was all about their power and how great they were going to be. And the Germans were seduced. And they were seduced because they had high IQs, but more than that, they were psychically connected to each other and would work like robots. The Chinese and the EU want robots to replace us because they'll follow orders. And the Chinese,
I don't believe any of it, except that I believe probably almost all of it.
Are very conscious when they're conscious, but they're also very robotic. But the Germans are just as robotic. So
what is next? Oh, we're here again. So, well, I guess. No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to cut out, guys. Very fun show to do. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. We'll wrap it up right there. Just having a good time. Trying to blend a couple of windows it's been a slow couple of weeks in Canadian federal politics, and learning to learn a couple of new skills and things that we can do. That's it. That's one thing we can do. Float around there. Anyhow, thank you all for watching. That's a great way to spend a couple hours this afternoon. We'll catch you in the next one. Aaron, hit the subscribe, smash the like. Catch you in the next episode. Ciao for now.